Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Friday Forum. My name is April Shine, and I serve as the Director of Advocacy and Policy with the Foundation for Tacoma Students. The Foundation's mission is to build and strengthen the Graduate Tacoma community-wide movement of over 350 community partners to help every child achieve success from cradle to college and career. As part of our organization's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Friday Forums were launched to provide relevant and locally focused information and resources to our community partners and families. If you tuned in last week, you heard from a panel of individuals who are either experienced in or in the process of implementing a remote learning environment for Tacoma students. While there are a lot of passionate educators trying to support families so that student learning can continue during these unprecedented times, the question remains, how are we reaching families impacted by disabilities? How are these students continuing to find ways to learn, and where can we bridge the gap? The Foundation for Tacoma Students began advocating for public policy in the summer of 2018, and just last legislative session, increasing investments in special education was a top policy priority for us. We know these students and families need additional supports to thrive, and we will continue to advocate for them. As Elvin Buku and some of our panelists mentioned last week, this crisis isn't impacting all families in the same ways. Disparities that existed before are even more apparent now, highlighting the need to continue to target supports to areas of our community that need them most. Today, I have the honor of serving as moderator for a panel of experts who are deeply involved in supporting youth with disabilities and their families. I'd like to introduce you to our panelists now. Please wave at the camera when I say your name so folks know who you are. So first, I'd like to introduce Glenna Gallo. Glenna is the Assistant Superintendent for Special Education from the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction for the state of Washington. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Rita, Chaudhuri, and Taj Jensen from Tacoma Public Schools Special Education and Title I LAP Office. And finally, Doreen VanderVort with PAVE, parent-to-parent coordinator with PAVE. Thank you all for being here. So to kick off the conversation, I'd like to turn it over to Glenna. We can't hear you quite yet. 1 second. There you go.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity to talk about students with disabilities and their special ed services during COVID-19. You're probably going to see my video go on and off, and that I'm battling a weak signal. And so if I get any indications that my signal is lagging, I'm going to turn the video off. What I want to do is just take a few minutes to reflect on the state of special education in Washington. Then I'm going to talk about the resources and information that's out there about implementing and developing a new educational system during this time. And then we're going to take a few questions. So to start this off, Washington has been in an ongoing cycle of continuous improvement. Over the last few years, we've been focusing on improving outcomes of students with disabilities and really changing the way that we do business in how we work with districts, how we work with parents and families, and how we work with the community, all to support those improved outcomes. We saw kind of an unprecedented influx of resources in the last legislative session, with $25 million earmarked for improving inclusionary practices for students with disabilities. And that work was ongoing. We had districts engaging in professional development. We were working on highlighting universal design for learning, as well as assistive technology. And right now have an RFP, a request for proposals out to address parent communication, parent engagement, and parent training. All of that kind of took a back seat, however, when we were impacted by COVID-19 and the governor's order to close school facilities. What happened was that we saw a dramatic change in our basic education system. And that, of course, then impacted the services provided under special ed. There's a lot of confusion going on because we've never been through a system quite like this since IDA was initiated in its various forms back in 1975. We've seen regional emergencies, but nothing that was a national emergency or had such an impact as this. What's interesting is that IDA talks about the purpose of it being to support students to make sure that they both access and make progress in the regular ed curriculum. It also looks at how is it that we prepare students with disabilities for life after they leave school. Well, during this time of COVID-19, our basic education system has been disrupted. It stopped for a period of time, and then in March, the superintendent released guidance and a letter to districts requiring that continuous learning start by March 30th. Districts are in various rates of where they're at with that, as is Tacoma. And so we're going to hear more about what Tacoma has done with that. But as we've had that impact to general ed, special ed has had to not only adapt to changing and figuring out how to deliver special ed services during this time, but figure out how we address and change special ed services to support students accessing and making progress in the basic ed, general ed system. That is kind of in a nutshell what the issue is. What it looks like, though, is kind of more cumbersome. You're seeing services start and stop. You're hearing potentially mixed messages or not getting communications during this time. You're seeing families stressed by the trauma of the situation and trying to fill in as educators for their children. While at the same time, we have teachers going through all of those same things. It's definitely a time where we really have to kind of take a step back and look at our needs as human beings, and then work through kind of a hierarchy of needs, starting with safety and security, and then addressing education. Having said that, we have students that need a variety of different options and supports. And we are looking at how it is that we could provide those supports in different, unique, and innovative ways, how it is that we can really capitalize on the concepts of universal design for learning, or UDL, for both special ed and general ed, and how we could invest in technology and assistive technology that's specific to student needs, that not only helps them in this time of school facility closures, but will help them when we return back to the buildings and assist with integration and inclusion in general ed classrooms. We've released guidance in the last few weeks around continuous learning, as well as a special ed guidance companion that's called Inclusionary Practices During School Closures. That is a format that is provided so that families and schools are provided with the information to work together to create a learning plan for each student. During this, we've received guidance from the U.S. Department of Ed, and that talks about everybody working to ensure that to the greatest extent possible, each student with a disability can be provided the special ed and related services identified in the student's IEP. However, they also go on to say that school districts must provide a free and appropriate public education consistent with the need to protect the health and safety of students with disabilities and those individuals providing education, specialized instruction, and related services to these students. They said that during this unique and ever-changing environment, they recognize that these exceptional circumstances may affect how all educational and related services and supports are provided. With that, that's the basic tenets that we use to develop the guidance that we released around continuous learning and inclusionary practices. we're encouraging districts to work with parents and families to identify the supports that the student needs during this time, recognizing that they won't be delivered in the same amount or in the same method that they were previously. One of the things that's hindering this is if you look at the continuous learning document, it sets expectations for maximum student commitment daily, starting as low as 30 minutes a day for a preschooler and going up to a maximum student commitment of 3 hours a day for a high schooler. School districts are having to work with families as well as general ed teachers and special ed teachers to identify how to provide special ed supports during those maximum time commitments and determining when, if necessary, additional time needs to be added. This is a time where we all have to work together. We're waiting anxiously for Congress to provide additional information. They may take additional action. We've received CARES Act funds, approximately $200 million in the state of Washington, 90% of which goes directly to districts to provide educational support, including special ed support. I'm worried that I hear, despite our encouragement for families and educators to work together, that many parents are reporting to us that they're not receiving communication from their school and they're not sure what's happening with their special education services for their child. And so we're encouraging parents, if they haven't heard directly, to reach out to the special ed director and request a conversation or an IEP meeting to make sure that we can address the needs of your child moving ahead. I think that's enough to probably get us started. April, I can drop in the chat links to those documents if that's helpful.
Yes, that would be helpful. And thank you so much, Glenna, for that realistic overview of what both the state is dealing with and the guidance you all are trying to provide to districts and families. I know we don't have you for the full hour, so we just thank you so much for making time for us at all. But before you go, I'd like to just pose a couple of questions that came in from our audience before this webinar during registration. One person asked, OSPI has issued guidance indicating that in rare cases, districts can provide educational services one-on-one for students who cannot be served any other way. Is there any additional guidance on this? Are there districts that are actually doing this?
So we are in the process of developing additional guidance beyond that which was provided the week that the governor made that announcement. What we are reminding people to do is that if there is any other providing services, to use that to preserve the safety of both the student and the staff. Absent that, we are also working with the Department of Health, who released guidance around the safety requirements while childcare is being provided during this time. And so we're anticipating that we will see additional information about safety requirements to come out from the Department of Health regarding in-person services. Without having that, I just posted a link to the child care guidance. I think that if we're innovative and think outside of the box, and we acknowledge that parents and families and communities all have a variety of resources, we know that a one-size-fits-all model is not going to work. And so we encourage districts to provide information and instruction and support through a variety of systems, whether they're online, whether they're printed learning materials, whether they're phone calls, whether they're recorded videos that can be watched, and to try and use those different options and modalities prior to considering the need for in-person services. We also know that a lot of related service personnel have the ability to provide distance services during this time, and their professional organizations have released guidance that talks about flexibility to do so. In the event that nothing else can be accomplished. We encourage districts to sit down with parents and look at the students' needs and identify what services are needed during the state of emergency and identify ways that they could potentially be provided in person safely. And so absent the new guidance coming out, I'm going to refer back to that child care guidance, which talks about safety precautions, the need for personal protective equipment, the need to still maintain social distancing, screening for illness, not cross using staff so that multiple people aren't impacted. Now, having said that, this is all guidance that's coming out from the state. However, we also have schools that make their policies based on their board decisions. And we also have agreements with labor associations. And so all of those things have to be considered.
Glenna, I'm going to have you turn your video off if that's okay, since you just started cutting out. We made it almost the whole time.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. So I'm just saying that not only is it our guidance in line with the Department of Health's recommendations for safety, it's also local school district requirements and decisions, as well as agreements that they have with labor associations to do the work. So we are not recommending that it happen frequently, but do understand that it may need to happen on a case-by-case basis. Again, it's based on a need and inability to access through any other measure, not based on convenience or preference.
Okay, thank you for that. We have one additional question for you. What are the legal requirements for serving students who are not able to log in, won't complete work, or choose not to engage remotely?
So the guidance that we've gotten from the U.S. Department of Ed has recommended that districts document their attempts to provide instruction, as well as the frequency that the student has accessed it. We do know that when this is over, that we're going to need to look at the need to potentially provide some compensatory services for services that could not be provided during the school facility closure. We do know that the district making attempts that are not accessed willingly by the student or family may decrease the need for the district to provide compensatory education. Now, having said that, that's a general statement. Compensatory education is determined on a case-by-case basis, and I would anticipate that the district would look at why the student failed to access their instruction and how it related to the disability when making those decisions.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and just say thank you so much, Glenna, for your time. And if anyone has additional questions for Glenna that didn't get answered today, you are welcome to email info@graduatetacoma.org, and we will pass them along and make any connections necessary. Thank you so much for all you're doing, Glenna, and for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate that you're helping us work together to resolve this. Thank you.
Okay, so now I would like to turn it over to Dr. Rita Chaudhuri and Taj Jensen from Tacoma Public Schools.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Rita.
Okay. So I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity for inviting Taj and me to be part of this forum. Any opportunity we can get to talk to our community is welcomed. Thank you, Glenna. She is an amazing partner, and it really feels wonderful to be have somebody with her acumen to be on call to brainstorm ideas across and to talk to her. I wanted to just kind of share with you what we are doing in Tacoma right now. We have our case managers and our teachers who have been conducting ongoing checks with students on a day-to-day basis. They have their timetables, they have their caseloads, and most commonly they're using a simple phone call to make connections with students. This is of paramount importance to us. We need to know how our students are doing, where they're at, and then also provide access to education and educational experiences depending on their needs. Our case managers are keeping a track of the students that they're calling. So we know when they're calling, at what time, and what supports are being offered. These conversations also open the door for our case managers to discern and diagnose what supports are needed and what can be provided in a meaningful and impactful manner to our students. So that's one level of communication, our case managers to our students and their families. On another level, district office personnel are meeting weekly with PSESD, and this is an educational forum that we participate in. It's once a week, it's for an hour, and it can go longer than that. And our leadership come together like a professional virtual learning community, and we talk about job-alike issues. We collaborate with our colleagues, we share resources, we learn from each other. All the conversation is around what educational supports are you providing? How are you providing them? Have you conducted surveys? What do you know about your students? What is working? How many phone calls is enough without escalating family needs? How do you reach out to families that you haven't been able to reach out to? This hour-long meeting once a week provides structure for us, provides guidance for us, tremendous opportunities to collaborate, to participate. We look at instructional design, delivery, continuous learning, and most importantly, we are all moving towards progress monitoring of our services, progress monitoring of the education that we are providing, and then how we are reaching out to our students. I'm going to ask my colleague Taj to now talk about the supports we're providing our teachers.
Thanks, Rita. Piggyback off what Rita said, and I just want to start by asking people to continue to show grace and understanding as we work through this. We want to provide the best services for all our kids in Tacoma, and so every week and every day shifts, and then we shift our services based on the needs of our students. I know right now a lot of our special education teachers are working directly with general education teachers to provide support to the lesson plans that we're pushing out every week. We don't want to throw additional work on students because the workload is already increased in terms of parents trying to teach kids, things going on at home. We want to support our special education students getting access to the general education. And so Gen Ed is working with special ed to make sure that all kids have supports. The second piece, to piggyback off what Rita said, is the data collection piece that we're doing in Tacoma. We started out at the very beginning of this, just wanting to know who had access. So who had internet, who has computers, right? And then we built our delivery off of that so that we could fill the gaps and break some barriers down so that we could make sure our kids had access to everything. Equity is a huge lens in Tacoma, and this is part of that work that we're doing in Tacoma. So with that data that we collected in special ed, we started to build out. Special ed teachers are still checking in with their students every week to provide academic supports and just to check in and see how they're doing socially, emotionally. And that's a huge component. And then we collect that data often, right? And then from that data that we collect from our LRC teachers, we know the next steps that we need to do to support our staff and our teachers so that they can directly impact our students. I think the last piece is to know that at our office in Tacoma, we're continuing to provide professional development and ways for our LRC teachers, our self-contained teachers, all our special education staff, our TOSAs, our coaches, to get together weekly and map out next steps based on what happened last week and what guidance OSPI is giving us, all through the lens of kids first. And I think that kind of summarizes what we're doing. Rita, April?
Thank you so much, Taj and Rita. We have a few questions for you, but if it's okay, we're going to go ahead and pop over to Doreen and let her speak, and then we'll round back to questions.
Absolutely.
Doreen, welcome. It's so lovely to see you. virtually.
Oh,
Doreen,
thank you so much.
Doreen has, I've had the pleasure of witnessing Doreen's passion for, not only all special education students, but her own children a few different times over the course of the last year of knowing you. And you truly are the definition of an advocate in every way. And
Okay, you're making me blush, April.
I think it's going to be wonderful to hear from you about just anything you have to say to parents or educators, mentors during this time, both as an advocate and a parent yourself. So thank you very much, and I'll just let you speak.
Sure. And I don't always really think of myself as an advocate, but just as an educator and a lover of my community. Tacoma's my home, so I'm representing my Tacoma shirt today. I'm born and raised here, so I love my community. I love the families in my community and the children here. And I really just think of myself as a resource and somebody who helps people make informed decisions, because I don't know any better what's right for one person's child over another's. I really hope to empower, and I think everyone in our organization hopes to empower a family voice, and just for them to feel confident in understanding their role and their rights in special education. So I want to talk a little bit about what PAVE is, because I think a lot of people maybe don't even fully know what our organization is and what it does. We started as a group of parents at a table in 1979 who were wanting vocational education for individuals with developmental disabilities and access to school. Those 30 families formed this organization, were chosen to get some specialized training from the federal government to provide training and information to families and individuals impacted by disability. From there, we have grown. We have a lot of really great services, and all of our staff are still working during this COVID-19 time. So we are all virtual. We've gone to an all virtual online platform. We are still providing one-to-one assistance to families if they're having questions and needing technical support during this time. We are still hosting regular parent and family groups. We have a lot of programs at PAVE. There's no way in a 10-minute session to talk about all of the things that we do, but you can see this is just sort of a quick representation of all of the different groups that we have, from our branch, which provides technical assistance to parent centers across the nation about how to support military families, to our specialized training for military families that happens nationally and internationally for all branches of the government, to our Washington State Family to Family Health Information Center. This is a really great resource for families right now, accessing healthcare services for their individuals with disabilities in a time when healthcare services are scarce. And the Parent Training and Information Program, which is what I think we're most well known for. There's a parent center in every state across the nation, and PAVE hosts the Parent Center for Washington State. And our goals are really just to help people understand how disabilities impact learning, help them find resources in their own community. We have training and a lot of articles and great information about students' right to a free and appropriate public education, and assistance to navigate all of these systems that can feel really overwhelming for families. We have person-centered planning. We are in wonderful partnership with lots of school districts, including Tacoma, and the Developmental Disabilities Administration to help students plan for their future. We have an autism-specific program here in Pierce County for youth 14 and over who are on the spectrum, to learn life skills and social skills and cooking skills together, again, helping prepare for a life after school while still in school. And those groups are meeting virtually right now. We have our leadership program, which we have partnered with the Tacoma School District to offer this Start Now program, which is going to be delivered in May virtually to parents and students that are looking towards planning for life after high school. What does that look like? What does transition services mean? What kind of skills do I want as I think about planning for that? So that's a great partnership between our Start Now program at Spark And we also support adult self-advocacy, hosting the People First Pierce County chapter for adults with disabilities here in our county. We have two pretty large events that we help put on with a variety of great community partners. We've got PC2 here, who's our information education partner from the county. We put on the legislative forum. We help convene the people to come together with legislators in the fall to talk about issues impacting individuals with disabilities in Pierce County. And the Tools for Success conference happened right in the middle of COVID this year. And so we were able to go to a virtual conference. So you can find all kinds of great videos from professionals across Tacoma and Pierce County talking about post-secondary educational opportunities. So resume building, preparing for life in college. Those videos are there and available online for people to use today at the toolsforsuccess.org. I work for an amazing program called Parent to Parent. That's my teammates there on the screen. I wanted to give them credit and say thank you so much for being the amazing people that you are. We offer parent groups. We have virtual groups. We have really adjusted our schedule for parent need right now. So our groups are meeting Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. by Zoom. So you can register for all of those online. We are also still running our Sharing Down Syndrome in Pierce County group, our partnership that we have with their organization, the Awesome Autism Parent Group that happens on Saturday mornings, the Parents Achieving Lasting Support out of Puyallup, and our Spanish speaking group for families is actually tonight at 6 o'clock. So there's still a variety of supports available to families. We are still here. We want them to know they're not alone. I could not go talking about Tacoma without giving a huge shout out to the amazing leadership of our Tacoma Special Needs PTA. That's been an awesome collaborative partnership between parents and the district. And I have wonderful parent leaders who have done amazing things working with the organization. I'm a founding member, and I can't say enough about getting engaged with the Special Needs PTA and the resources and the training that they provide on a monthly basis. We're doing in-reach calls to families. So if you have families who are feeling isolated or just needing someone to reach out, we're doing 15 to 30-minute just check-ins, a place for families to talk to another parent with special needs, children, just to talk about the things that they're struggling with and the things that are going well. We're here. You can reach out to PAVE in a variety of ways. We have our website, which has tons of resources on topics. You can contact our helpline, which is being checked every day. And we also have an online form at wapave.org/get-help. There you can find all of our calendar events and all of the different ways to get involved with PAVE and Parent to Parent and Spark and the other programs that we have. You can register at our calendar, and you can fill out a Get Help request online any time of day, moms and dads. If you're up in the middle of the night and you just like, oh my gosh, that thing came to me and I can't sleep, get on the Get Help, ask for help, fill it out, and someone will get in touch with you within a couple of days. So I talked a lot and fast, so that's just a way to get in touch with us. I hope that that's helpful to families and professionals who are out there. We're here and accepting referrals, and we'd love to hear from you guys.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Doreen. That was a lot of really quality information, and we'll be sure that we can make
share
sure
that out.
Yeah,
I'll get that to you.
So folks can go back and find the relevant supports they might want to reshare or use themselves.
Yeah, and I think if I could say one thing as a mom, it would be to all the parents out there, what you're doing is enough. What your kids are doing is enough, and you're doing a great job. Because I think that's something that we don't hear enough. And to all the teachers out there, what you're doing is enough. What all of the things that you're providing for us are, we know that we're in crisis, and we're all working to really practice that extraordinary compassion. And the most important thing that I can say is communicate. Document and communicate as much as possible as families, as providers, to make sure that we're having a really good and meaningful connection with the people who are part of our team. We're a team. That's the whole purpose of the individual education program, is to be a team.
Well, I will say as a mom, I really appreciate those words.
Thank you.
Okay, let's pop into some questions for you all, if that's okay. I'm going to kick it off by asking Rita and Taj, whoever feels best to answer this is welcome. Will there be any summer support for TPS students?
I'll take that question. Okay. Yes, absolutely. We've had a very strong summer school program for the last 5 or 6 years. We are right now planning summer school for our kids. We are planning it virtually as well as the traditional way, whichever works for us. So we're making all the plans that we're able to provide a quality educational experience for our kids. ESY, extended student year, is something that special ed kids have written into their individualized educational plan. We are already looking at that. We're identifying the students. We're deciding venue, manner, and exactly what we're going to be providing.
Great. I'll continue with Rita and Taj, if that's okay. This is specifically for you all. How are services tracked for families who choose not to engage in distance learning?
Yeah, I'll take that. So we are checking in with our families every week. And that check-in includes providing supports. And if they do not want to do distance learning, we document that, the date, the time, the student, the conversation, what was offered. It doesn't mean next week we don't check right back in with that family, right? Because part of it's not just the academic, like I mentioned before. It's we just want to check in socially, emotionally, and make sure that they're doing okay. And if there's anything else that we can provide our families besides the academic piece. And so those are just put into a spreadsheet. We're tracked every week, and those submitted to the district office. And then we put all that data together. But again, when they refuse services or don't want to do services because there's so many circumstances right now, that we just show grace and patience and understanding and still check in with them, because the human element is really, really important at this time.
Yeah, probably now more than ever. That's great. What resources should community-based providers offer our parents with kids with special needs to help them do home-based learning?
Taj, I'm taking this one. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. Community-based providers are our best eyes and ears in the community. They have the relationships. They have true and authentic information about what parents need and what students need. My suggestion to community-based providers is, as you interact with families, keep your eyes and ears open to any learning experiences that parents are asking for, and provide them with the needed resources. So books, games, tablets, materials for creating things, chalk, crayons, any of that is exceedingly useful. Students love getting them. They are almost like gifts, and learning can be very clearly interwoven through that. So that would be my short answer.
Okay. I like this question, I guess, for anyone who knows right now. How are teachers doing?
Yeah, I'll take it. Teaching, or being a teacher, right? It's not a job, it's who you are. It's a passion, and your love for kids. And so when you're not able to have that face-to-face with your kids, it's a struggle, because it's the essence of your being. And so teachers are struggling with that piece. I know all the teachers in Tacoma and all over the state love their kids dearly, and really are trying to figure out a way to make that connection, all different routes, all different platforms. With that being said, I can tell you the teachers in Tacoma stepped up to the plate and are doing amazing work, far beyond what I could ever think would happen so quickly. And just, I'll step back for a second, but we know that that student-teacher relationship is so valuable. We knew that going into this. I think due to this distance learning piece, we've seen that how much more valuable that is. Maybe even underestimated a bit. I watch my kids at home, and I watch other teachers, just that quick Zoom or Teams meeting, right? The smile that it brings. There's no academics maybe, but it's just that conversation. And so my hope is when we go back to teaching, that folks realize even more so how important that connection is with students and teachers. But with that all being said, the teachers in Tacoma are rocking it, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Thank you, Taj. Very well put.
Doreen, I wonder if you can answer this from a mentor or program provider perspective. Like, how are these incredible individuals who are still out there supporting families doing?
I think what's been really amazing about this time for teachers is there's so much freedom and creativity that we're getting to see just what inspirational, incredible, outside of the box thinkers they are, and the way that they are working to meet student needs, recording videos of their morning circles and sending out reading of the favorite books, engaging my 5-year-old with their favorite stuffed animals who were teaching them pig and elephant, like those things, however small, have been really, really meaningful. I think, again, there's always a question of equity and access, and that doesn't just exist for families. We know that, and this has shined a light on some of those issues, but also for teachers and what they know, their ability to access the technology. I know that a lot of them have been accessing great professional development to be able to do these things. But I think there's a learning curve for everyone here. And we're all surviving a pandemic right now. I think that that's not something to take lightly. We talk a lot about distance learning and home learning and e-learning, and I'm like, this is crisis response learning. It's a really different thing. And I think, not putting so much pressure on this idea that we're going to recreate a school day in our house, when that's probably not going to happen from parents, especially those of us who are working or not working and dealing with the repercussions of that in our homes. But that we're grateful for the time that teachers are spending reaching out, and that whatever engagement that we're getting from them is wonderful. And I know they're putting on a really amazing, brave face for parents. And we're thankful. We're thankful for what they are doing and what they'll continue to do.
Yeah. So a couple more questions. Really, these are for anyone who wants to jump in. What are some key learnings we should pay attention to over the next few months that might help us become more resilient to the typical summer melt and learning loss we often see following breaks?
I'll take it.
Go for it.
Doreen, I would love your point of view on this too.
Yeah.
The summer melt happens. You go from a very structured, rigorous schedule to a much more open situation. I believe that parents are already doing a lot of things. And all I would advise parents is to be a little bit more purposeful. Look at the why. So whether you're teaching them to cook, or you're having them help you, lay the table, have them talk about directions, sequencing. You're playing with 2 toys, have them talk about compare and contrast. The learning is just absolutely applicable over there, and that learning continues. And it will definitely hold the summer melt. In fact, I think it will be better because that they're applying it to real life situations in an authentic setting, and that learning then is kind of there for mastery and gets into that.
Yeah, I think some of the things that are important in my mind over the summer and in this time in general is that parents really do need to take care of themselves and take time for themselves, because you can't pour from an empty cup. It's important to practice really good self-care and to utilize all the amazing tools that are coming out around mindfulness and meditation and prayer as ways of caring well for yourself. But I also think just really good communication. I think talking with your school team about what is the plan and what is doable and what skills can they continuously be working on, using those continuous learning plans that have come out as great guidance from OSPI. We'll have an article coming out on that's in May in our pipeline for parents that kind of breaks that document down a little bit, but really engaging with that continuous learning plan in a meaningful way about what is doable at home and what can happen. But recognize your kids are learning all the time. Every minute that they're with you or a teacher or in any space, they're learning. So play, build those Lego towers, get engaged with their video games, count their troll toys, play and use music, ask a lot of questions, teach about your family's history and culture, look at geography, take those walks and be in nature together. I heard one, Victoria Health has been doing a really great webinar series with the Head Start programs. And she talked about just having little moments in your day that are scheduled. A hug in the hallway before you all head in your own directions. Or if your student doesn't really love to be touched, finding their favorite song and jumping and bouncing and doing the things that really bring them joy, and making intentional time, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes a day, to really have that connecting time. Just small things like that can really make a huge difference. But definitely use that plan and keep in really good communication with your team about what can be done and what is really realistic and doable, and be really honest about that as parents.
Yeah. I'll be silly and share that in my household, the daily dance parties to the Frozen soundtrack are truly lighten everyone up, including me and my husband. So I appreciate that advice. One more question that I think you all might be great to answer. What do you believe is the best platform to provide instruction for students with different abilities right now?
I can start. I think every district, right, is using a different platform, be it Google or be it Zoom or be it Teams. So I don't know if there's a best platform. I think it's how you approach using the platform, the content that you put on the platform, the thoughtfulness that goes into it, the intentionality that goes behind it, the conversations you're having with the users at the other end. I'm a firm believer that it's not about curriculum or the tools, that it's about the operator, about the teacher. So I'm not particular to any platform. I'm particular to what's being put into the platform to help our kids. Right? If a kid is visually impaired and they can't use Teams because it doesn't put subtitles, right? Then we move to Zoom, because Zoom will put those subtitles up there. I mean, there's ways to be creative, but to be creative, you have to know where the gap is. And in order to have that gap, you need to have constant communication with the people that you're providing services for.
Communication's coming across as the theme between all of you.
Yeah, it's huge.
Well, and I would just say it depends, right? It depends on the student and on the family, the student's capacities and their needs for learning capacities and ability to engage them in that learning. No one platform. I mean, the individualized education program was designed because the students with disabilities needs are not going to be met by one platform. Every student is going to have individual needs, and some of those are going to go unmet in this time because there are students that have intensive one-to-one support needs that are likely not going to be met in a distance crisis learning setting. And I think, we heard from Chris Reichel about, document and keep track of that and know that that's happening. So I think each of the things are designed for them to access grade level standards. And so in the best way that they can do that, I think teachers are being really creative, and amazing coordination between special ed and general ed teachers. And that's just such an important part of this.
I'm just coming in the rear and supporting everything Taj and Doreen have said. It's about communicating. It's about reaching out. I'm really grateful that we live in an era of technology where we were able to interact with our students using technology when this unprecedented thing happened. Kids need interaction, and meaningful ones. So any platform that allows us to do that and keep safety there is obviously the best one. I think all of them, like Taj says, has different features to it. It depends on how you differentiate and how you use. And like Doreen said, we've got to be safe. We've got to make sure that it fulfills the purpose, and then document where it was not going to work.
One question came in for you, Doreen. I'd like to ask you, how are youth responding to the COVID environment? How has this information informed the possibility of amended and/or additional services?
Oh, wow. I think that, again, it depends. Each student is going to respond to this differently. I mean, I know students that really struggle in a classroom environment with a lot of other people to focus and give attention to learning, that are loving being at home and doing online learning engagement. And others who are really struggling. I think, again, I'm going to point people back to that continuous learning plan. This is an opportunity to really get together with your team, to ask for that team to pull together and talk about how are we going to adjust in this time? How are we going to amend services and supports? And then to document very clearly those minutes and time that you had planned for in your individualized education program that isn't going to happen in this time, so that we can plan for when we're all back together again, to really help those students engage and access that. So I hate to say document, and just really be in good communication with your team about what is the plan and how, and if something isn't working, it's really important to talk about that and not to feel like, oh, it's my fault because I'm not as a parent, like I'm not a special educator. And so there are certain things my child will not do for me that I will watch her do for a caregiver or watch her do for a teacher. Man, I've been trying to sit with my 5-year-old and read, and I sat her in front of her teacher reading a book, and it was like she was so zoned in a way that she just won't for me. So I think that it's really important. Again, Taj talked about that teacher-student relationship, how important that is, how much they really look to their teachers for that engagement and that learning. So I hope we'll get to a place where we can see more face-to-face, like we get to see each other's lovely faces today, where students and teachers will be able to access video to engage with each other in the way that we are getting to today.
Well, thank you all so much for your time today. I feel like we provided families, or at least I hope we provided community and families with an overview of what was happening, or what the state, the district, and community groups are doing to support families with students with special needs. I just want to let you all have a minute more if you want to provide any wrap-up comments or messages or something you'd like to share with folks to wrap things up today. And then I will kick it back to me for some closing announcements. So why don't we start with Tosh?
Well, I'll start just real quick. And if parents are hearing this or community organizations, just to communicate with us. If there's a need or you feel like you're not being heard or you need some supports, just to reach out to our office directly, and we can be thought partners with you and come up with solutions. And that goes for parents and community providers. I don't want people to become upset or frustrated and have things fester. Just come to us and we'll work directly with you and come up with a solution. Again, communication is the key to get through all of this. And so there's nothing wrong with over communicating right now during this time.
Great.
I just want to share that it's an honor and a pleasure to serve our students. And we want to do that, and we want to do it in a meaningful way. So any questions, any concerns, any suggestions, like Darsh said, come to us, communicate, and we will do our best to support our students.
Thank you very much, Rita. Doreen.
I think that I'm just going to say, communication, reaffirming that it's really, really important to talk about what's working and what's not working, and knowing that that's going to be different day to day, and having a lot of grace for yourself. I think there's some misunderstanding out there, even in some of our parent groups. They're asking questions like, will I be held accountable to like neglect if I don't get the schooling stuff done that they're sending to me? And there's that worry and the concern. We want to do actually just hold our kids to no harm, right? And the truth is, like, you are surviving a pandemic, your kids are home and they're with you, and they're healthy and fed. And I do want to say, like, how grateful I am to the amazing response that the district has had with providing meals. I think that's such a really important thing in this time, because kids and families, more importantly than anything, they have to have their basic needs met in order to be able to do any of those other things. So that's one thing I think we have done just exceptionally well in our district. I want to say thank you for that. But yeah, for families, just take good care of yourselves. Don't feel so much pressure to do all of the things.
Right.
You're not a special education teacher. They went to school for a really long time to have all the amazing skills that they have, and they continue to go to school all of the time to continue their education to be the wonderful teachers that they are, and in their vocation. So give yourself the grace to know you're doing the best that you can, and day by day, just take it one day at a time and start each new day over fresh. With a new set of eyes that says yesterday's gone, tomorrow's not here yet, we're just working on what's happening right this minute. And then, like I said, just keep good records. Yeah, and if you need to know more about what that means, contact the helpline and talk with another parent who can support you with that.
Well, once again, on behalf of the foundation, I just would love to thank all of you, both for your time today and all you're doing to support students and families in Tacoma Pierce County. We always say it, and it came up multiple times today, but the collaboration of this community is truly what I think makes a difference in the lives of kids. And so thank you for your continued partnership and collaboration. And I look forward to seeing you all, whether virtually or in person, very soon. Before we go, I just wanted to highlight a couple announcements. Next Friday, please join us once again for another Friday forum. You can tune in next week, 1 o'clock, same time, same place. You will register for that forum and hear about the subject and speakers in a follow-up email that will go out with the recording of this Friday, either today and following next week. So thank you all again so much for your time and your advocacy and your support for families. Stay safe, healthy, and have a great rest of your afternoon and weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taj and Rita. Very nice to meet you.
Bye, Doreen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, April.